Good evening, everybody. Um, my name is Chris Daly from ICBF, and welcome to night two of the series of Teagasc Future Beef webinars on uh, suckler breeding. So tonight I'm joined by two future beef farmers, Donnchadh McCarthy from, I think, Youghal, isn't it?
Yeah,
Or
just outside yacht,
are you the Cork or the Waterford side of the border?
the
Probably
Waterford side.
the Waterford side. And John Barry and Nina, man. So you're definitely a tip man, I'd say. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll get you this year on the Cork lads. So, and Rose Goulding from NCBC, who is the beef program manager with the National Cattle Breeding Centre. Um, so look, I'm just going to share some slides there, and we'll get going without further ado. Just to give you an outline of what's coming up this evening, we're just going to go through a few things. So selecting the correct cows for replacements, um, matching the correct replacement sires, so picking the right bulls to match those cows. And I suppose, look, both of the farmers tonight are using, almost all or, very significant amounts of AI. So they're very much able to taper or to tailor the AI bulls to the cow's needs, to where the cow needs to be strengthened. And looking at different systems as well, whether you're finishing cattle, selling weanlings, trying to produce replacements, what traits do you need to look for in the sires? And, Rose will cover that in detail later on. So look, firstly, just a couple of slides, just a couple of basic principles really on applying the index to your herd. Very simple steps applicable to every suckler herd really. So the first thing is, no matter what business you are, even outside of farming, whether you're selling cars or machinery, you have to know what your market is, where are you selling your produce into, and that tells you then what you need to produce. So we're suckler farming, I suppose, compared to dairy farming is very different in that there's lots of different systems. So some guys are producing weanlings, maybe for that high-end market. Some people are trying to produce replacements. Some people are taking cattle through the store and selling them. So there's lots of different systems, lots of different herd sizes, lots of different requirements. But what you need to do is focus on the indexes and the traits of importance to your system. So that's what's key. And look, I've never come across a farmer who said they like difficult calvings or, wild cattle. So calving difficulty and docility, look, they're traits that are applicable across the board. There's nobody that could really say they're not really worried about those traits. Step two, well, that's about knowing where your cows stand in relation to their traits. Like if you think about suckler breeding, your herd of cows is in place. Where can you make changes? You can't really just go out and cull your entire cow herd and bring in a new set of cows. So you have to work with the cows you have. You can make improvements through the sires. So it's important to know the strengths and weaknesses of your cows. And this is where the Herd Plus reports come in. So things like the Eurostar report. So what's the overall replacement index of the herd? And then within that, it's important to look at the traits. So what you want to try and do is try and have as balanced an animal as possible. And look, most suckler farmers will say that the key areas for them, the three overall main things they like to focus on are carcass, milk, and calving interval. They kind of really cover off. They're the three, I suppose, foundational pillars for any suckler cow. She needs to have good growth genes to pass on to her calf. She needs to have milk, and she needs to have fertility. So this is an example of a suckler cow report. So using a traffic light system. So if we were to look at the overall index and the three traits, carcass weight gets a green. Look, it's quite strong, plus 27 kilos. Some might even say it's a bit on the high side. Maybe the cows might end up being a little bit too big, too beefy. Milk and the overall replacement index are average or maybe just a bit above average, so they could be improved. And calving interval is getting a red there because it's, the figure is quite low. So a positive on calving interval is what you don't want. You want to see a negative figure there because you want to reduce calving interval. So this is the genetic merit of the herd for fertility, essentially. So with carcass, you want a positive figure. With milk, you want a positive figure. With calving interval, you want to see a negative, a minus figure. So how do we bring about genetic improvement? So it's with our sires because, they're relatively easily interchangeable, especially with AI. If an AI bull doesn't really work out, you can just stop using it. You know, a stock bull, obviously there's a big investment in a stock bull first day, but it's more feasible to change your stock bull than to change your cow herd. So it's through our sires that we make genetic improvement. So with sire selection, look, this is a very important thing, and it's something that dairy farmers really have embraced with EBI. Like your sire should be genetically superior to your cows. So let's just say Eamon or John tonight, if they wanted to improve carcass in their cows, or if they wanted to improve milk in their cows, for example, there's no point in them using sires that have poorer milk figures than their cows, because that means they're going backwards in those traits. So it's very important that the sires are genetically superior. If you're looking for replacements, you're looking at the maternal traits and the beef traits. So, you know, your carcass weight, your milk and fertility. And then some farmers will be, all of their animals will be being sold as weanlings or taken through the slaughter, and replacements are being bought in. So in that instance, then those farmers can focus on the terminal index. They're just looking for animals that will grow, put on lean muscle, put on weight as quickly as possible, so that they can get as high a revenue from the sale of those animals as possible. For farm using AI, the active bull list is always a good place. It lists all bulls from all AI companies together under one list, and you can sort and filter the list. You can put in criteria. So it's a good way to find AI bulls across all the AI companies that meet the criteria that you need. And look for those buying stock bulls. Look, there's lots of society sales. I know there's bulls in Dundee, but the stock bull finder on the ICBF website is also a very good tool as well. It lists stock bulls and herds that are performance recording with ICBF, and all of the information is there, as well as the contact details of the farmer selling the bulls as well. So that's quite a useful tool for anyone looking for stock bulls. So again, just the 3 simple steps. You're defining your system. You're looking at your cows to see where are they strong, where are they weak, where do they need improvement. And that improvement is gained in through the sires. So using the correct sires, be that stock bulls or AI. So just moving on to the farmers in question. So, you know, we mentioned earlier there's lots of different systems on Irish suckler herds. So these are just a few examples of the animals on these farms. So just on the left, an example of a breeding heifer on the McCarthy's farm. A finishing bull. So I think this is a Charolais with maybe some Angus background, given the coat color. And then this is a cow and calf on John Barry's herd. So look, different types of animals, different systems, different requirements. Look, there may be some crossover as well. There'll be animals in those herds with, you know, very similar traits, very similar in appearance as well. The right cow for you. So again, there may be differences here, but you know, I think most farmers would kind of agree on all of these traits, that they're important to have. So functionality. So cow is functional. She's good on her legs and feet, and or just general functionality, or as a suckler cow is good. Weight for age. So particularly for calving in 24 months, you know, they have to be hitting that, you know, maybe 400, 420 kilos at 15 months. Their genetics, you know, they need a good positive milk figure. So the Future Beef Programme farmers are maybe looking at a positive milk figure up around 8 kgs. Carcass weight in the cows, so that, you know, the cow's growth genetics of 18 to 20 kilos. Fertility, look, she has to go on calf, and go, you know, go on calf as a heifer at, you know, that 14 and a half, 15 months, and then go back in calf, and continue to last as long. The herd longevity is obviously a big thing as well, because look, replacement costs are expensive as well. Docility, look, it's a huge thing. You know, you need a cow that's easy to deal with, and it's not, you know, not going to be a danger to you, particularly at calving time. She needs the calving ability, and look, mothering ability as well. And that's something that's been recorded now through SCEP as well. And it's, you know, it's something that's very interesting. I've suckler cows myself, and every year there's always one cow, maybe two or whatever, especially maybe a heifer that calves on for the first time, and they're just a bit troublesome. They won't take to the calf, they won't let the calf suck, or, you know, and that just adds a lot of stress. It adds a lot of labor. It can be dangerous as well if a heifer gets excitable. It can be dangerous for you. It can be dangerous for the calf. So it's a very interesting thing now that we're starting to record, to try and see, is there a genetic element to it. And look, from the point of view of accessing all this information, look, all of the information is available to farmers through ICBF. So you can log in, you have reports, you have profiles that will give you all of the genetic information and all of the performance information on the animals as well. So there's just a short video here now on Eamon and Donnchadh McCarthy's farm, just outside the All. So I'll just play this for you now, and hopefully you can hear the sound as well.
My name is Donnchadh McCarthy. I'm farming with my father Eamon in Glendoyne, County Waterford. We run 50 suckler cows, calving in 6 to 8 weeks. We finish all the bulls under 16 months and the heifers about 22 to 24 months. We're 100% AI here. We use a mix of bulls, terminal and maternal bulls. The terminal bulls we're using this year are Recif, Lepan and Orby. Their carcass are 530s or into 45, I think, with receipt. The maternal bulls we're using this year are Westell and Bundy and Urabas, mostly on heifers, and we have Nebbiolo and Mr. Bull picked for the cows. For AI to improve labour efficiency, we use heat detection collars. We're in our 3rd year with them now, and they've been a great success.
Very good. So, Donnchadh, a nice insight into your farming system there with your father, Eamon.
Yeah.
So, look, this is just a slide showing the genetics of the herd. So kind of around the 45, 50 cow mark. Replacement index of 137. Carcass weight of +15, milk of +7.5, and calving interval, you know, a nice negative figure there. So look, all the traits in the right direction. So look, maybe just talk to me a bit about the focus of the herd and what you're trying to do and where you'd like to maybe make improvements.
Yeah, so we're killing the bulls under 16 months, so we're always chasing carcass. Like, I suppose we'd like to rise the carcass a bit. You can see the average there in the herd is 15, but on the heifers it's 19.
Yeah,
I think we went a small bit too small with a few bulls for a few years, so we're just trying to bring that up to maybe around 20. And like you said earlier, if you could get the milk up maybe to 8 and keep a negative on daughter calving interval, try to balance it all, like.
yeah. And like as you said, you know, the direction of the herd is going the right direction because your first calvers, like that's the kind of curve you like to see. It's your mature cows have the lowest carcass weight, but you're starting to bring that carcass weight figure up now. But
Yeah.
you're still maintaining that milk, which is a good thing. And it's good to see. And look, I suppose as we mentioned, that's really the beauty of AI, where you can be very selective with your sires, isn't it?
Yeah, you can pick if a cow has loads of milk, you can use a bull with slightly less and vice versa. Like, and even I suppose the third, like some of the older cows, the milk would have been coming from the dairy herd, but now in the younger ones, it's all coming from, beef bulls. Like, so that's why I suppose the older cows have the milk, but it's being bred in now with the beef bulls as well, and the younger cows.
Yeah, and I suppose if you think about like those older cows, then because maybe they're first or second cross from the dairy, they kind of you're almost guaranteed milk with those, but you
Yeah,
probably have to be a bit more selective with your bulls then,
yeah,
to
definitely.
maintain that milk because it's probably something that's very easy to lose.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. No, you do. You have to keep an eye on it. All right, yeah.
yeah. Um, and look, I suppose, my own experience this year, like I've suckers myself, and of course, almost all of my cows that I wanted replacements out of had bull calves and vice versa. Like, are you dabbling in a bit of sex semen to try and guarantee that heifer calf or doing anything like that?
I'm considering it. I not I only used it a couple of years ago, all right, and we got on all right. But I would consider it. I probably won't this year now, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something I'd look into, and I would look into male sexed as well. If I could get male sex Charolais, like, and use them, it would be a great addition to us. Like, I suppose with the heat detection collars too, it's a great job for the sex because you know exactly when to AI them, like. So I
Yes.
might
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
probably will in the future, like, yeah.
It's a great
Yes.
opportunity to use sex on your cows that are breeding well. because if you pull out your cows that you'd love to have daughters out of, the ones that give you a good calf every year, they're quiet, they've milk, they've a nice udder, you know, all the things you're looking for. And it's a great opportunity to use sex semen on them. Where some people go wrong is they tend to wait until their best cows are really old and they go, oh God, I'd love more daughters out of her. And using sex semen on those sort of cows doesn't work that well. So with sex semen, you need to use it on females where, you know, everything is right. You know, they've had no trouble calving, they're normally fertile animals, they've had no other issues like lameness or anything else. So you're better off using it on your younger cows once you've figured out that they're breeding well. Also very successful on heifers. But you
And
don't
I
have the
suppose
same knowledge in the heifers, of course.
those younger cows as well, Rose, where, you know, we all know those cows that, you know, they just go and calf to that first straw every year, like they're the ideal candidates, you know.
Absolutely.
So just looking at some of your replacements then, Donnchadh. So this is the Eurostar report. So these are some heifers you've kind of earmarked as replacements, isn't it?
Yeah.
So look, pretty good indexes all around, you know, and it just goes to show that, you know, they're not all going to be identical. There's some, you know, there's some very high carcass figures, some average carcass figures. So, and this is where the sires come in then, isn't it? About kind of matching, you know, the sires to the respective females. Like, so, I mean, like take if we take this 886, like she's one of the highest milk figures, maybe a little bit lower on carcass. So, I mean, which one of the sires would you be more likely to be mating her to, Donnchadh?
I reckon I probably have West Ellen Bundy picked for her, I'd say, because she like, you know, what I'm looking at there now is her carcass isn't too bad and her milk is quite good, but she can't
Yeah.
really afford to lose daughter calving interval, like, so he's very strong on daughter calving interval, and he's, you know, he's strong on the other two as well, but he's particularly strong on that, so I'd put him on her.
Yeah, and look, you know, it just shows you, you know, you're putting a bit of thought into that, then you're improving the traits she needs to be improved on there big time. And like he's a real outlier, and the Angus is like he's extreme in that carcass.
He is, yeah,
I
very
mean that
much
probably
so.
puts him in the top 1% of the Anguses anyway, and probably even a crossbreed, he's probably a 5-star. So he's very strong on carcass.
Yeah.
Um
Look, and he's a young bull now, like his figures could change slightly, but I thought the carcass was so high that even if it comes down a bit, he should still have a decent carcass, you know. And I'm not using a pile of him either because he's new, like, but
yeah,
you know, I just said I'd try him this year and see how I get on with him.
yeah.
That's the thing to do, but a test bull, you know what I mean? Use a little bit of them. Don't go wild. Don't use them across the herd. Use a little bit of them, and then, you know, you'll gather a bit of information on them next year, and you'll be able to compare them then to the sires that are well known and well proven, and that you know yourself well as well. So use them, but not that heavily.
All genotyped as well, so you're in the NGP, so they're all being genotyped as calves, I take it.
Yeah, everyone's being genotype as
Yeah.
calves, yeah.
So you're getting sire verification, you're getting more reliable indexes, and I suppose, you know, an interesting one we probably touching on. I mean, is, you know, the myostatin status is becoming more interesting now, you know.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to mention is that oh yeah, calving a 2-year-old. So these are all 2025 born females. So they'll be bulled now this spring, sort of when you'll be starting AI.
Around the 1st of May, we'll start, go for about 6 weeks.
Okay, yeah. So they'll be started calving then from kind of the
Roughly the
first week of
1st of February,
February,
like. Yeah.
first week of February on, yeah. So all calving down, like these are all kind of February born. So they're all calving down at 2 years old, and it's all working out fine for you. You're doing it successfully.
Oh yeah, there's no bother, like calving at 2 years old, like. Dad always says it, like, you know, if you can get your bulls under 16 months at 700 kilos, there's no reason you can't get your heifers to target weight for bulling for calving at 2 years old, you know.
Yeah, geez, it's a good point actually. Never heard it put like that.
Yeah.
And obviously look economically, I suppose, especially if you have a set system, if you're just in the spring, it's either calving at 2 or calving at 3, and like 3 you're going to end up with
Oh yeah,
You know,
but sure, even like here, if we had to keep them for another year, like we're fairly highly stocked, like so if you kept them for another year, you're probably losing 8 to 10 cows, you know, and that's
yeah, yeah,
you
and the
know,
cost of feeding them then and everything.
yeah, it's a complete non-runner for us anyway.
Yeah, and you've one less calf over their lifetime then probably. So
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's not worth it at all. And I'm off the top of my head, I'm fairly sure the studies have shown that there's no real difference in calving, you know, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, difficulty wise, like
yeah, well, like what they studied, yeah, it's showing that there's no higher attrition rate of heifers, or
yeah,
there's no more heifers dropping off that are calving as two, and I suppose they're calving a year younger than those 3-year-olds, so you're getting one extra calf out of them over their lifetime. So the economics of it, are speak for themselves. Look, it's just an important point to make because when we look at the national stats, less than 1 in 5 heifers is calving at 2 years old. Like so, it's one of the big kind of blots in the copybook of the national suckler herd that
yeah,
we,
big
we
time.
we really need to pull down that age of first calving. Like the
Mm.
average heifer's calving at about 30 and a half, 31 months. It's very, very high.
Yeah, but look, and just you have to keep an eye on the calf and difficulty of the bulls too. You can't expect miracles off a heifer at the same time, like, but you know, you're better off to get a calf out of her anyway at 2 years old than waiting another year.
You are
Yeah,
a lot of people worry about the calving of the 2-year-old, but most guys, to be fair, get on well calving them if they select the appropriate bulls,
Yeah,
especially if they're using AI. Where guys run into trouble is getting them back in calf. So I think that's the secret to manage them well after their first calf to get them back in calf. Do you do anything special there, Donnchadh?
I sure know. Like it's like you said, you pick bulls that are relatively easy calf, and like I actually think the 420 kilos or 400 kilos, you know, going to the bull the first year is nearly more. Like I think she'd go and calf the first year nearly anyway. Like it's the second year that's you need her well grown all the way along to
Exactly.
get her. The second time is the harder time, all right. But
Mhm.
look, once they're well grown and we try to have them out on grass as early as we can, and you know we don't really have a problem with it, to be honest.
good stuff, good stuff. So look, just an example, then we picked out one of the heifers, and I suppose this just focuses on genetic gain and what you can do there, how you can improve on a cow's index in the herd. So this is one of your heifers here, 885, a limousine cross all black, Donnchadh.
Mm.
Look, very good index, high replacement index and a good balance there as well. You'd be fairly happy with those traits across the board, would you?
Yeah, like if you look at the cow there, I definitely wanted to bring up her carcass, so obviously I used Orabos to do that. Like it's you're always balancing it, like so she lost this calf now is after losing daughter calving interval compared to the mother, but I'll put a bull on her then to bring that back up, and it is that you're always trying to balance those three main traits, like so. Yeah,
100%, yeah. So that's the cow's index. So yeah, like you said, she was a bit lower on carcass. So you've increased the carcass, increased the milk. Yeah, you sacrifice a little bit on the fertility side, but as you said, you can use a bull there that'll improve that again. And that's the indexes of the sire then. So he really gave that bit of an injection of carcass and brought it up, but increased the milk a little bit as well.
yeah.
Um, I suppose again, just demonstrating the beauty of AI, and you can really be selective with the sires and tailor them to the individual cows.
You can, especially if you use proven bulls, and especially if you're looking for milk. So if you take Erebos, I think he's actually the #1 limousine you can get on milk.
Mhm. He is,
So you're much surer of him or his daughters having milk than using a young bull with that milk figure. So if you use the proven bulls, you've a much better chance of getting where you want to get.
Yeah. Look, I think Ashling actually had a color coded here on the right hand side. So the green are the traits they're strong on, and the sort of goldy colored in or ambery color where they weren't maybe all that strong. So you can see your resultant heifer. Yeah, you can see maybe you lost a little bit on the calving interval, but you can improve on that again. So look, thanks for that, Donnchadh. So this is where we bring in John Barry. So we're just going to play a little bit of a video there, just on John, and he's just going to give just a bit of background on his farming system in Nina, County Tipperary.
Hi, name is John Barry, farmer here in Newtown, Nina, County Tipperary, farming 180 acres of grassland, calving 60 cows in the springtime from February to April, and calving 35-40 cows and heifers between middle of August to end of October. Cemental Limousin cross is my preferred cow type here now at the moment. They bring the colour, they're docile, they're milky, they're fertile, so they're ticking all the boxes. I'm selling the top end bulls as weanlings to the export market. I castrate the plainer ones and sell them as stores off the grass at 18-20 months along with the heifers. I'm breeding a small bit of the Belgian Blues, the roan coloured heifers. So if I'm lucky to get a nice heifer, I'll sell the heifer on in a special sale. Using as much AI here to breed replacements, and you can pick different bulls to suit different types of cows here. When I'm trying to breed replacements, I'll be looking for milk in the bull, fertility and docility, along with conformation and carcass weight, trying to get a balance. And then any cows that aren't suitable for breeding get a terminal bull, either Belgian Blue or Charolais. Calving difficulty is a huge priority here as well, so usually for calving heifers at 2-year-old, I'd be looking for a bull with 5% calving difficulty max, and then on a cow maybe 8 or 9%. Love coming down, love breeding good animals, trying to keep them good and healthy. At the end of the day, if the money is good, it entices to keep going. I like suckling, and long may it last, and prices are good, so happy to stay going at it.
Good stuff. So John, you love your suckling. John Milan said he loves his county, which you love your suckling. You can see it there really in you.
Yeah, even though I have good days as well, or bad days as well, but sure, try to keep the bad side out of it anyway and be positive about it.
Oh, sure. Tell me about it, yeah. Not every day is rosy, but look, yeah, you try and enjoy the good days, as you say. And I suppose, look, the last 12 to 24 months, especially when you're producing those high-end animals, their value is really soared there in the last 12 to 24 months, hasn't it?
Yeah, sure. Look, I've breeding the nice animals there and getting well rewarded for it. So hopefully the prices stay good. I know things haven't been good there in the last few months, so hopefully they can improve again.
Yeah, sure. Look, it's out of our control, really, isn't it? So all you can do is keep doing what you can, or keep improving what you can control, isn't it?
That's it, and hopefully the men and women that bought the good cattle off me there in the back end last year are able to come back again this year, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. So look, this is just a snapshot of your herd. So 83 cows, and look, placement index in around 112. And you can see there the slightly higher emphasis on the carcass, kind of more carcassy, beefy type cow. But still, good milk, still a positive milk figure, maybe not as strong in the calving interval, but look, especially with the AI and being selective, it's something that can be relatively easy improved on. So I suppose just talk to me about the focus on the genetics there, what you're happy with, where you want to go, what you'd like to improve on.
Yeah, sure. Like with the autumn and spring, like first priority when AI is using as much maternal for the first few weeks anyway, try to breed as many replacements. Of course, look, the cow has to be able to breed a good milky animal as well. So look, it's mostly maternal starting off, and even if a cow doesn't have good figures or that, they'll get a terminal bull, but majority is maternal start off, and then Charlies and Blues to mop up, along with my limousine bull then when the AI is finished.
Oh yeah, very good. But the main focus is really on the AI, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Look, I'd love to be able to go 100% AI. I nearly did it with the autumn bunch this year. I think I've nearly 95% of them AI, and I think the bull only got 2 or 3 cows and heifers. So I'm getting there, but need to have everything right as well. Health, and last year there, the spring ones, there was iodine issues. So I had a lot of repeats, so I didn't get as many AI as I'd liked. So I won't let it happen this year coming now.
And just on your systems in, like if you were to compare the spring and the autumn calving, and particularly around the AI, like are there pros and cons? Like it just maybe in my own experience there, like it's probably the spring calvers because they're outside, or probably maybe there's more bulling activity. But the autumn calvers, while they're convenient to bull, it's harder to spot them when they're inside in slats and stuff, you know. Do you find any of that, or
Yeah, not really. I like it's harder to get more consistency. I know maybe it's just with the health issues there last year, but the autumn ones went very well for me. I think it was just good silage. They were fully vaccinated, minerals were right.
yeah,
I had I used a vasectomized bull with a chin ball, seemed to work very well. Hopefully now this year I'll have I'll improve on spring bunch outside. I'd like to
yeah.
get at least 70 or 80% of them AI.
And your heat detection is your vasectomized bull with the chin ball.
Yeah, yeah. No,
There's
like
no,
I'm around most days anyway, so three three times a day max I'd be looking at the spring ones. Whereas with the autumn ones, um once or twice a day, because it's like even I'd be gone early out of the yard and come on next morning and there's a cow covered in paint, so
yeah.
Shinball works very well that way.
Yeah, yeah. And is it technician or DIY AI?
DIY.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're doing your own AI. Very
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Works out
So
all right.
yeah, look, I have been looking into the colors, so we'll see how I can improve on the spring ones now this year, and I'll look into it maybe next year there. Um, Look, having a stock bull is great as well. If I had to go away or anything, you just have to visit. Like the likes of last year now, I kind of was worried about cows and heifers not going calves, so just lay in the bull to do the work, and seemed to work on it.
Yeah. And just in
But
terms of the genetics, then, like, where kind of would you like to make improvements? Where would you like to get to, or are you happy with where you are? Or would
um,
you like to?
I'd like to like the calving interval. Definitely, I'd like to tighten up the calving. Milk maybe a small bit.
Yeah,
Um, kind of if I could get find a bull that high carcass weight and easy calving as well. Um, but I'm happy, like I'm able to get the animals off the farm at a young age. So look, the heavier the better, of course,
yeah.
and
And
the
that's the key
quicker.
driver for your income, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And like my
Weight.
autumn ones, the autumn calves are going out the field every day. So grass is very important as well to improve
Yeah,
the. It's the cheapest of them all.
yeah, absolutely. So just looking at these are some of your replacements, John. I think ones no, there's first calvers, a second calver in there. Maybe she's just calved for the second time, or maybe she's an autumn calver. So look, it's just kind of gives a profile, or the kind of different breakdowns of the traits in your females. So some very high carcass ones there. So this is actually a Belgian blue. I think she's just calved down for the second time.
Yeah.
So you can see the carcass is really coming through on her. Would you still have that positive milk figure, look positive on the calving to it as well? You'd like to see that negative, but most of the traits are going in the right direction.
Yeah, no, the Belgian blue cows, like you'd be I had a heifer calving there a few weeks ago, and I was very worried about her calve, no problem. I was out of the yard at the time, which was great. So, um, No, and the Belgian Blues have lots of milk as well, so very happy
Yeah.
with them there.
Now, all those females sired by Blue Bull, John, they'll all be myostatin carriers.
It
So,
will be, yeah.
so do you look at that and do you pick a bull that's a
Yeah.
non-carrier, or how do you work it?
Yeah, so I'm going for easy calf and non-carrier, the myostatin. So I'm using Angus or an easy calf and limousine bull.
Okay.
So
Have you ever
realistically
used
there,
a carrier in those cows?
Yeah, like I have run into trouble over the years, like because I didn't look at the figures and didn't know anything about the myostatin. So um saves a lot of hassle, so it does.
so I suppose where you could run into trouble now with that female 1758, she's guaranteed to have one copy of the NT821. So if she was crossed with another carrier of NT821 or Q204X, which is in the Charolais, some of the limousines have it as well, I think, Rose, but if the calf gets one copy of the NT821 from the dam and a Q204X or an NT821 from the sire, that's where you end up with these freakishly big calves that maybe need dissection. Am I right in saying that, Rose?
That's right. So I suppose the key with the myostatin is, as John says, knowledge. You know what I mean? So if you know the status of your cows, and you can get that now on Her Plus, so you can identify your cows that are carriers. And then also most of the AI companies show the myostatin status of the bulls.
Yeah.
And cows that are carriers, you will get more shape. You know what I mean? They will deliver you more shape, more muscle development, but they have reduced calving ability. And the risk with putting a carrier bull on them is you might end up with a full double muscled animal, which will be harder to get out, and the female has reduced calving ability. So you're trying to get out a bigger calf with more shape through a smaller space, and that's where you can become unstuck. Now, it won't happen every time, but there's a possibility of it happening. So the advice would be to try and avoid using carriers on carrier cows.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you really want that exceptional, animal for the commercial show scene, then knock yourself out, but make sure you're there when they're calving, because you might end up having to do a section.
Yeah,
It's
I
maybe
like concentrating as well and restricting the diet pre-calving as well, so it does help.
It does.
like,
It'll help with the calving ability and the size of the calf. But it can have an effect on the quality of the colostrum. So
Okay.
it's something you'd want to manage very, very carefully, not go too hard.
Yeah, I'd be giving them Sire there and minerals, so you'd be hoping to have that works okay.
Sure, yeah. And exercise as well. I mean,
Yeah.
exercise makes a big difference. If cows have, the opportunity to have exercise, it makes a big difference to them.
For as long as I'm able to eye that cow, like I'll be going easy calving probably.
yeah. I suppose she's bringing a lot of the quality from her side anyway, so you don't really need to go bring too much from the sire side.
And she's
You know,
bringing color as well.
yeah, like most cows will be a lot lower than her for carcass weight and conformation, so those cows would generally need more beefier sires, but you don't need it with this cow.
No.
You made an interesting comment the other day, and I couldn't agree with you more that it's a lonely place being at the back of a calving jack in the middle of the night behind a cow and a calf stuck at the hips or something. It's not a
Yeah.
nice place to be.
Yeah,
No, I'm finally learning the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
costly as well, because there's the possibility of losing the calf. There's a possibility of a section, but also it does affect the cow's ability to go back and calf and get a calf within the year. So if you add up all the costs, it's best avoided.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
but a great tool on a plain cow to make a better calf too, though. You know, it's not all negative either.
Oh no,
100%, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's all about knowing your cows and matching the right bulls to the right cows to get the result you want.
Yeah.
And look, those 2 points are interesting, the bit of balance and just, I suppose, a lot of beef farmers, you know, maybe we tend sometimes to be very focused on the outputs or, you know, the prices we get when we sell animals. And, you know, it's all great. And especially in the last 12 to 24 months, prices have been, you know, very, very high. But we probably need to be a little bit more focused as well on our costs, you know, like let's say, you know, John or Donnchadh there, like if you have two animals for sale and, you know, one makes 2,500 and the other makes 2,200, but the 2,500 one had a 500 euro vet's bill first day, like
And the
then
cow didn't go back in calf
and the
again.
cow didn't go back in calf.
Mm.
Like we can all blow our trumpet about the animal, it makes big money, but it's, are we making money? Is it profitable afterwards? Because in that instance, the 2,200 euro animal left more profit than the 2,500 euros animal. So, you know, and look, it's probably just the nature of suckling. You know, a lot of farmers are, maybe it's a bit more of a hobby to them, and that's fine. But and the indexes get criticized for that sometimes, but the indexes don't take hobby into account. It's, you know, are the animals going to be profitable? You know, and that's, I think it's an important point. Um,
Even I'd be looking at I look at the cow first to see what type of bull I could put on her, and then like I'll go with see what type of calving difficulty you could put on her then. So you know, it's very important to be doing that as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, the beauty of the AI is you can, especially on
Yeah.
heifers, you have the access to proven sires. So this is just an example of one of your heifers, John. So is this her here? She's a first calver,
Yeah.
cement limousine cross. So again, you know, quite a carcassy type cow. But it just goes to show with the right sire, like she was starting off from a pretty low figure with the dam. So the dam had a replacement index of only 25 euros, was it?
Yeah.
You know, beefier type animal, not great in the milk. Fertility, you know, that fertility figure not great, but with the correct sire, then so use a high replacement index, this Corrine gunshot, a high replacement index cemental, and you can see that, okay, it's not bringing her straight to a 5-star, but it's improving her, it's bringing her up, you know.
And she had a maternal bull there, drumline S heifer calf this year. So like I'll go again drumline on her again. Like
Yeah, so that calf then is probably up probably around the 140, 150, 160
that's it.
mark on replacement index. So you know that really shows, you know, how you can make genetic gains. So in 2 generations, you're going from a kind of a 1-star cow to a 5-star replacement heifer. And again, just looking at the sort of color coding over here. So you know your cow, okay, carcassy type cow, the milk was poor with her, and the calving interval. Used the bull that was, you know, going the right direction on all the traits, good carcass, good milk, good fertility figure, and this is your heifer that you ended up with. So just really demonstrating how you can improve the genetics. Again, you know, I suppose just demonstrating that the benefits of AI in selecting the right sires. So just, you know, one very good report. And look, any lads or Rose can come in there on this. Just, you know, a very useful report for suckler farmers that ICBF make available is the Suckler Co report. Great report for analysing the performance of your cows. So it has all their information. So tag number, date of birth, their index details. So you know, the main kind of 4 things that most farmers really look at are the replacement index, the carcass weight, the milk, and calving interval, which is fertility. So this cow is really going in the right direction. So she probably maybe a little bit weaker on carcass. But look, I suppose the rest of you can come in there, but like, would it be kind of fair to say that if you were to pick anyone for a cow to be weak on, it's maybe carcass weight, because the primary things any cow really needs are probably milk and fertility. You can always improve the carcass weight through a sire, but like if you have a very carcassy cow with no milk and no fertility, then it's very hard to do anything with her. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
yeah.
It would,
So,
but it's all about a balance, because you know what I mean. A Jersey cross will give you loads of milk and fertility as well.
oh yeah, well that's
So
going completely extreme
it's
then.
going
Yeah,
the
yeah,
opposite. So I would balance the terminal and the replacement, because no matter what system you're in, you're paid for weight.
Yeah.
And
100%.
then
Yeah, yeah.
with the weanling system, you just need more shape at an earlier age.
Yeah.
Now, personally, for a suckler cow, I'd like something higher than I'd like to be getting closer to the 20. for suckler cows. But you're right, milk and fertility that's the engine that'll give you cheap feed, and it'll give you a calf out of your cow every year.
Yeah, and I mean, there's plenty sires there, Rose, that'll comfortably bring that cow up to plus 20 kgs on their first cross, isn't there?
But if
Oh,
you look at the
absolutely.
bull, I gave that cow Shannon Stan, like he's plus 30. I don't know if he's plus 32 or 3 on carcass, like so he would have brought she have a set of twins there now going to the bull this year, and he'll have their carcass brought way up to 20, like and
Yeah.
she can afford to lose a little bit of milk too, so there's no better bringing her up, like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because that's something we don't talk about really. I suppose most of us are short of milk, but too much milk is nearly worse than not having enough milk.
I agree with that.
Trying to manage cows straight after calving with too much milk, the calves won't suck them out. What happens, a lot of those cows is they end up losing 1 or 2 quarters. So then you've kind of lost all the benefit of having the milk. So
Yeah.
it's like a lot of things in breeding and genetics. Having a balance is better than going for extremes in any trait.
It's interesting you say it actually, Rose, because I actually just a cow here, she's only calved maybe a month, but I took her away from her calf a couple of days ago because I noticed the calf was just sucking other cows, and like she's after 7 or 8 calves, one of the best calves, a beautiful red Angus cow, beautiful odor under her, but when I went checking her, she'd only 1 quarter left, like 3 quarters are over the years getting mastitis, and I think twice she calved down with mastitis. But if she had had a little bit less milk, she probably wouldn't have run into that issue.
That's
But
right.
she ended up going from a cow that was rearing huge calves to this calf being almost hungry under her, not because she was genetically not able to produce milk, but because she probably had genetics for too much milk and ran into issues then. So the calf is just inside in the pen sucking a few other cows. So I'll just fatten that cow now and get rid of her because there's no point feeding her when she was producing nothing. And like you can see the benefit of the milk there on the the weights of the calves, the average daily gains. She had a set of twins there, so obviously these were a bit lower. And then, they're following through the carcass as well. When you look at her first 5 calves were all bulls, all killed at that, under 16 months, all coming into ewes, all hitting big carcass weights. So, this is a cow that's really doing the business. And even though she's maybe a little bit low on the carcass there, Donnchadh, like you say, if you use the right sire on her, it'll really bring her up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a great report. You can download it as often as you like. But it's the best snapshot you'll get of any one cow, because you can see her index, you can see her own performance, and then you can also see what she has produced. And the more information you put in, the better it'll be. You can see the birth weights. Some cows will show big calves regardless of what bull you give them.
Yeah.
And they're not useful cows to have around the place either. So you can see the birth weights, you can see the gestations, and you can see the performance. So it's a super report.
I used to
Yeah.
be buying in heifers there, thinking that to be nice heifers for replacements, and calving down, they've no milk in that. So I'm trying to breed within as well. So at least you know what you have with the figures, like.
That's right. In genetics, you mightn't be perfect, but at least you know what you have and you know what you can, breed from it.
Yeah.
Super stuff. So, John, you just touched on you try and give this lad as little fun as possible, but he has to have some little bit of fun every year, you say.
He got lots of fun last spring, but hopefully, look, bought him. I used to have a Charlie from Up and Up. I wasn't doing as much AI, but bought this guy. He was 4-year-old, and I bought an EBY easy calf, and I needed a bull to suit heifers and cows from Up and Up.
Yeah.
And he's doing exactly what I wanted him for, so it's great. And there is, I actually have 8 of his heifers now going to AI next month there, so please
Okay.
God, he's like all the heifers are off milky cows as well, so
So
I
even
know
though
he
his milk
doesn't.
figure isn't hectic,
Yeah,
you hope the cows will kind of bring the heifers up.
yeah.
Yeah. And looking at the calving figures, so his beef heifer figure is 5.7, the cow is 2.1. So, he really ticks the boxes there in
Yeah.
calving, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
And
No,
you've
he's ideal.
decent carcass. Like he's not extreme in carcass, but he's
Yeah.
good carcass figures. So you get that good, decent quality animal out of him as well. Very good. So look, yeah, I mean, I suppose the point, people might say it's very AI heavy, and it is, but I suppose, for farmers using stock bulls, what you're really looking at on the figures, you can't be selective. All you can really do is just look at your herd average for the different traits, and try and, identify a stock bull as best you can then to improve on where your cows need improving. And again, depending on your system, if you're selling weanlings, taking all the animals through the slaughter, you're focusing really on that terminal index and the carcass traits. If it's breeding replacements, you kind of need a bit of a balance between those carcass traits and the daughter breeding. And look, the docility, as I say, and calving difficulty are always something to be aware of.
But
Gonna
also,
have to
Chris,
be careful with him.
AI can work very well with a stock bull. You know what I
Say
mean?
again.
If you've a stock bull, and you're worried about him and heifers, you can pull out your heifers, synchronize them, use AI in those, pull out your cows for replacements. There's good range of sex semen available now in high replacement bulls. So that's your replacement sorted. That's your security calving on your heifers, and you can live off your stock bull after that. So you know what I mean? You can work both together quite successfully.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks for that, John. So look, I think Rose, I'll just pass it over to you now to go through some of the AI bulls for the different systems.
Yeah, great. Look, we've some of this covered already, so I'll just mainly talk about the principle of the indexes to select depending on what you're using the bull on, and then I've examples of bulls that we have available. So the first slide there is sires for maidens, and I suppose with maiden heifers, especially if you're calving at 2, it would really be the best place to use proven bulls, because with the proven bulls, they have an awful lot of data behind them, and you very rarely get nasty surprises when you use proven bulls. So I've a range of calvings there. Bar the top 2, the reliabilities are very, very high, and we'd normally recommend over 90% bulls for maiden heifers. And it's the beef heifer calving difficulty that you'll be looking at when you're selecting bulls for maiden heifers. It's the beef cow calving difficulty then you look at after that. The first few bulls there, Vengabus, Nottown Roy, Toomey, Tommy, they're all under 6%, and you kind of need to be at that level if you're calving at 2. Most guys then that are calving older at 2.5 and 3, in proven bulls, you'll get on fine with bulls if they're highly proven, less than 7.5%. Now, Paul for Proper there, he's the most used limousine in Ireland at the moment on maidens. He's fully proven at 7.5%, and doing a very, very good job. Nice quality as well. Shannon Stan, he's a bull you can put on stronger maidens. I wouldn't put him on maidens calving at 2, but he'll work well on stronger maidens. And with young heifers or light heifers or the ones calving at 2, I'd go with an Angus like Vingabus. Now there's female sex semen available as well of Stan and Proper. And when you're using female sex semen on heifers, you can, be a little bit more, have a bigger range of calving, because 90% of the calves will be female. So there's a lesser risk of calving difficulty. So I suppose the rule of thumb is use a proven bull, over 90% reliable. I'd go under 6% for heifers calving at 2, and then otherwise go under 7.5%. Okay, thanks, Chris.
Okay, Rose. So just while I'm sticking on the slide there, look, if anyone has questions, they can just type them in there to the chat, and we'll run through them there at the end.
Yeah, so I've pulled it up by breed, bulls for replacement heifers, because I suppose we all have our breed preference and we think in terms of breed. So there are bulls ranked on replacement index. So Stan is number 1, Rembrandt is second, and then that's ranked on replacement index. So just to talk about a couple of the bulls in detail, Shannon Stan is one of our highest index replacement bulls. Very complete bull because he's good on terminal as well. You can use him on strong heifers. He's also very short gestation. Now, he's not carrying the double muscle gene, which normally we would recommend, all the bulls we would recommend for replacements, they would be non-carriers, because most people want non-carriers to breed replacements. Rembrandt is another super bull, very well balanced between replacement and terminal. And the beauty of Rembrandt is he's not related to Erevel, because if you look at most of the top limousine bulls on replacement index, regardless of AI company, they're all either Erevel sons or Erevel grandsons. So it's important to have a look at the pedigree of the limousine bulls that you're using, or else we'll end up with a lot of inbreeding. So Rembrandt is very high in replacement. People love his females. They're really big, long, powerful females with great pelvic areas, very good on temperament, and he's not related to Erevel. O'Malley then, the last bull I have there, he's very interesting because he's fully proven. And it's quite difficult to get a fully proven bull that's come up really good on replacement index. And O'Malley is fully proven. He's nearly 90% reliability. And he's also homozygous polled. And polled is something that commercial farmers in particular are more and more interested in, because I think everyone hates dehorning. And when you can get the same quality as you can with horned animals, there's no disadvantage. Now with replacement, as John and Donnchadh pointed out to us there early on, milk is really, really important. And obviously depending then on your females and how much milk you want. But the 2 highest bulls available for milk are Erebos. He's nearly plus 9 kilos. That's the bull Donnchadh is using on his heifers. So he's proven at that, so you're guaranteed they'll have milk. And the other very interesting bull that's very high in milk is Nebbiolo. And the beauty of Nebbiolo is great females, very high in milk, but also very high in docility. So he's a lot of things that you'll be looking for in a replacement bull. And as I said, we female sex semen off of Shan and off of Rembrandt. Okay, Chris, we'll go on to the next one. Then other breeds, I just put up a selection. I suppose Limousine is the most used breed in Ireland for replacements. After that, people use a bit of Simmental, a little bit of Sires, and a small bit of Aubrac. And I suppose the benefit of the Simmentals in particular is if you want really a lot of milk, if you're really short milk, and you want to get up to 8, 9, and 10 kilos of milk, the Simmental is a very, very good breed to do that job. We've 3 Simmental bulls there that'll do that job for you. And there's female sex semen available from the 3 of them. Port Royal, Mr. Bull, very good bull. He's homozygous polled. So like O'Malley, you'll get the polled into your herd. And if you use homozygous, all the progeny will have no horns. So you won't have to dehorn anything if you use a homozygous bull. Their progeny then, they won't have any horns, but they'll be carrying the horned gene. So depending on whether you use horned and polled on them, then the next generation, if you want to keep polled, you keep using homozygous polled. So Mr. Bull, Rattly Pirate is another very, very good quality bull, relatively new. We don't have females off him yet, but really, really good quality calves. And then Lynx is more proven. There's female semen off him as well. Nocturne Roy is the most used Sire in the country. He's very easy calving, suitable for heifers at 2, very good on milk, very good on fertility, and good temperament as well. And Aubrac is less common, but it's a very interesting breed, especially for the likes of Donnchadh there. You're not worried about colour. So you'll get easy fleshing, easy care animals, good on milk, good on fertility, and they work like the Sire as well. Actually, they work a dream if you cross Charlie on them. Those two breeds with Charlie's just a match made in heaven if you're producing weanlings. Okay, Chris. Okay, moving on to our terminal index. We have a huge range of bulls. We have a huge range of Charlie bulls. And I suppose when you're looking at a list of Charlie bulls like that, the first most people do is to have a look at the calving difficulty and pick out the level of calving difficulty that they're happy with. And that ranges with herd owners depending on their own circumstances, whether they're at home or not during calving, whether they have help, and depending on their cow type. But all of these bulls in this panel are used well in Ireland, and there's only one bull there over 10%. And I suppose the thing about calving is benchmark new bulls to bulls that you already know and are familiar with. So, for example, if you're used to using Omega there, is around 7%, you have no trouble. You know you can use bulls at that level and easier. If you found that a bit hard for you, just go a bit less the next time. And if you're looking at proven figures over 90% reliable, you can really rely on the calving figures, or all the figures actually. When the reliability is high, you can hang your hat on the index. When the reliability is low, we have to wait to see until those bulls are proven to know exactly what they'll do. Our top bulls for weanlings would be Ricky would be one of our top bulls, and he's carrying one copy of the Q gene. And we were talking about myostatin earlier. It's better to have it on the bull than on the cow. And if you're selling weanlings, if you're in weanling production, you do need a certain amount of myostatin just to get that muscle up there. It's hard to get it without it. So our top 3 bulls for weanlings would be Ricky, Omega, and Receive. Romarin is a bull you can use on your second calvers, and that's another way of managing the calving and deciding what bulls to use. You go very conservative on your maidens. You use highly proven bulls. Then when you move into your second calvers, you can be a bit braver. And then in your third calvers and your more mature cows, you can go up on the level of calving difficulty because your cows have greater calving ability. And also then as you get to know your cows as they get older, you'll know the cows that are good calvers and you'll know the ones that aren't. So you can go in with the likes of Romarin on your second calvers and also on your old cows, because once they start to get old, then that there's more risk of calving difficulty. And then in your more mature cows, you can go in with the likes of Omega and Ricky. And that's the joy of AI, is you can pick your bulls for your cows depending on their age, depending on their parity, and depending on what you know about the cows already. Also then with the carriers, Romarin is a non-carrier. So if you have good limousine cows and they're carrying the N gene, you can use Romarin on them and you're unlikely to run into trouble. So use all the information you have on your cows and also on the bulls that you find in the AI catalogs. Okay, Chris. Equally with the limousine, high terminal sires, and our top bull there is Ardley Rigby. And he's a very interesting bull because he's only 5.5% on beef cows, which is really a very good figure. And his carcass weight is huge. He's plus 39 kilos of carcass. He's one of the highest limousines available in carcass weight, one of the highest proven bulls. And I suppose if we're talking about terminal sires, okay, we have to get the calving right. We need carcass weight because, as I said earlier, we're all sold on kilos. Whether we're selling weanlings or stores or we're finishing, we need carcass weight. And then carcass conformation is important, but more important in the weaning situation, because you need to get that muscularity and get it earlier in life. And if you pick up the Munster or the Progressive catalogue, we have the bulls marked whether they're suitable for weaning or finishing production. And the bulls we've marked for weaning are those bulls that will give you that extra muscling at a younger age. And those 3 bulls there are marked for good on finishing and good on weanling. Rigby is not carrying any of the myostatins, so he would be a great bull now, John, for example, to use on your blue cows. You know, from 3rd calvers on, you know they're good calvers. He's a non-carrier, and you'll still get your carcass weight, and you'll get your carcass confirmation. While I'll be putting Rolex then on the plainer cows, because usually plainer cows have greater calving ability, and they need that bit of extra shape, because you know the shape has to come to the table from somewhere. So if the cow doesn't have it, it comes in with the bull. And then also some bull is a bull that will give you that extra shape at the weaning stage. And if you look at the carcass confirmation, there's Rolex, he's 2.5, which is very, very high. If you look at all the limousine list, he will be one of the highest bulls. So I suppose pick your calving, and then for terminal, it's carcass weight and carcass confirmation, and then pay attention with the myostatins depending on the cows. Use the bulls accordingly. Normal rule of thumb, put non-carrier bulls on carrier cows and vice versa. Okay, Chris. Blues, we have a super selection of blues, and we have a lot of very, very good blues now that are proven for calving. Colour is fashionable at the moment, so Rolly will be one of our top sellers along with Hong Wang. Very acceptable calving, around the 10%. Very, very nice colours and a lot of style as well. Then if you're not, you know, if you want to go for the blue bulls, Cashmere will be one of our most used bulls, because he balances the calving with the weight and with the shape. And you need weight and shape for weanling production. So he's a really, really super bull. Edison is also super bull. Easier calving, you can put him into your 2nd calvers. Very good weight, very good shape. And then for your more mature cows, and for the cows that you know that have very good calving ability, I go in with Octopus or Django. So again, all the bulls will give you good quality calves, but just pick them out depending on the colour you want, depending on your tolerance for calving, and then pick the highest carcass weight and the highest carcass confirmation that you can. Okay, thanks, Chris. And just to finish on the Angus for sucklers, we're seeing an increased usage of Angus and sucklers, particularly for the likes of Donnchadh there that are finishing their own cattle. And they like the Angus because the aged finish is good. If you look at the aged finish there at the Angus, it would be higher than most of the other breeds I put up. The aged finish is good. And also the carcass weights now that we have in Angus, there's been an awful lot of genetic improvement made in Angus. So the carcass weights of the top Angus, they're competing with the Limousin and some of the other continental breeds. So the top 5 or 6 bulls I have there, they're plus 20 kilos in carcass. And we didn't really have bulls like that available 10 years ago because the usage of Angus is so high now. So if you are finishing your own cattle, I definitely would consider the Angus and look at the carcass weights, because all AI companies have a lot of Angus available now. Some of them are for dairy maidens, some of them are for dairy cows, and then more of them are for suckler cows. So you need to make sure if you're suckling that you're using the bulls for suckler farmers and not the ones for dairy heifers. So the big thing with the Angus really is to watch the carcass weight. And Donnchadh, you were obviously doing that there when you picked out West Ellen Bundy. He's one of the highest bulls on the system.
Yeah.
Great, thanks, Chris. I'll leave it at that. Both the Munster and Progressive Genetics websites have all the bulls and the index available on them anyway.
Great stuff, Rose. So just very briefly, I suppose take home summary. Know what your market is. Like I said, regardless of what sector you're in, you have to know what you're selling or what your target market is. What type of animal you need to produce for that. So export weanlings, you need shape, you need weight, etc. Know where your cow's strengths and weaknesses are, and then you can make you know, pick the right sires to improve on those cows. You know, I suppose a functional cow is very important. So you need to maintain a good fertile, milky cow because they're really the foundations. You know, if I suppose big, heavy cows that don't have milk and aren't fertile, there's not a whole lot you can do with them. So you need, I suppose, the starting point is milk and fertility, and then you can add in the carcass and other traits after that. And I suppose, look, if your system is producing weanlings, all the animals are going for slaughter, you're really focusing on those terminal traits. So, look, the real take-home message tonight is use the information that's available. The index information is all there on the ICBF website. You know, you have the active bull list, you have the animal search, and you have your herd plus reports then. You know, you have the index information, you have the myostatin information, calving difficulties, and just, you know, be a little bit smart about it. And look, as I always say to farmers, if you don't understand it, don't be afraid to ask the questions. Because there's nothing worse than maybe misinterpreting the information and using it incorrectly. Just maybe one or two questions there. I do notice a couple of questions there on things like heat detection and sinking and stuff. That's going to be covered next week in the last episode or the last installment of this three-part series. So we won't cover those tonight. Question there for Donnchadh. What age do the bulls go on ad lib, and what do you do as regards dosing them?
And they go on ad lib, I suppose, about a year old, maybe 13 months old. From then on, they'd be on ad lib. Dosing, they would have been dosed in August, September, maybe, when they would have been coffined under the cow, like, and we would have dung sampled them then, I'd say, after they went in, and I think they got a dose again after that. They showed positive for worms again. That's kind of it, and they stay in, then they're inside, so they don't need any more doses after that.
Very good. Question there, look, that I'll take. Do you have to be subscribed to Herd Plus to access the reports, even if you're in SCEP? Yeah, you do. So if you're in SCEP, we give you access to the basic Eurostar profile. But if you want the reports, you know, your calving reports, your suckler cow reports, your Eurostar reports, that's part of the Herd Plus service, so you do have to be signed up to that. Maybe Rose, is there a reason why there's so little limousine male sex semen available?
There is some available. We don't have a huge market for it at the moment.
For males, it's more, the demand is mainly for female sex, I
The
suppose.
demand is mainly for females on the bulls that are suitable for replacements,
Yeah,
and also on the bulls that are suitable for the commercial show market. So, for example, we would have female sexed of our replacement bulls, Rembrandt and Shannon Stan, but we would also have it available for the bulls that will give you that commercial show calf, like Ardley Rolex and Ardley Rigby. The market for male sexed isn't as high, but we do have some. We have male sexed available from Ardley Rigby.
okay, very good. And maybe just John, then for you, so there's a question here. What figures do you need? So if you're really targeting that export type animal, I suppose really it's what kind of carcass weight and conformation figure are you kind of looking for?
Well, sure,
This, I
the
suppose in the
shape.
bull now this is,
Oh yeah, sure. To be, what am I? 25 to 30 on the carcass weight,
yeah.
like and up to. I'm up to what and I wouldn't be afraid to go to 3 or 30. Is it on the carcass weight then or
Tree
carcass
and the carcass
confirmation?
confirmation, yeah.
Yeah, like
So the
like
tree, going for tree, then you're into the blues, maybe
you are,
the
yeah.
odd extreme limousine.
Well,
You're
if it was
really,
a limousine cow, I'd go with a blue and vice versa. Like,
yeah. So
um,
you really need to push up. You know, you probably need to be over that 2.5 anyway on the
you do,
confirmation to get that more
yeah,
extreme animal.
yeah. And it's the limousine in blue, like I'd be targeting then for the export.
Yeah. And just to clarify for people too, you know, there's a lot of confusion around the carcass confirmation figure. So what it essentially means, so if you looked at Rose's slides a few minutes ago, I might just flick back. So these are the blues and these are their carcass confirmation figures here. So if you take this bull at let's say he's just over 3.4. What that means is he's going to give you 3.4. His progeny will be 3.5, nearly 3.5 grades better than the average animal. So if the average suckler animal is killing out at, say, an R plus, this animal's progeny will be killing out kind of DU plus E minus. So it's kind of that 3 to 3.5 grades, because a lot of people get confused. And the blues are generally the highest, and then when you flick on to say the Anguses, they're obviously a lot less, because Angus isn't as noted for that extreme conformation.
But when you're looking at the two of them, like, you have to look at calving difficulty as well. Like,
Yeah, that's generally the trait. Like as you go up extreme
Yeah.
on the carcass and the conformation, the calving tends to creep up. But
or
I suppose,
reliability.
yeah, it's about knowing the cows that can handle it, and you can find the bulls that'll give you that performance without maybe the real extreme calving as well. So look, that's kind of it for tonight. The last webinar will be next week, same time. I'm sure there'll be links sent out to everybody. So look, I'd just like to thank everyone for taking part tonight. To Donnchadh, to John, and to Rose. Look, we hope people found it informative. And look, with that, I'll say thanks and good night to everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks a million. Thanks for
Thank
joining.
you.
Thank you.